The two things rarely get into circulation.
Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control.
Dreaming of the days where I'm just relaxing. These huge walls have got me trapped in. I'm here to knock them down.
Can they hear us? Yeah, you can hear us now? Can't see us yet? Can see us now? All right, cool. You can see us now. This is RJ Avery with the DDFW Realty's Conspiracy City podcast. Real quick, this is brought to you by me, RJ Avery. And the whole thing is, if you're looking to buy or sell a house, George, let me ask you, if you were going to buy or sell a house, and not only could you save a ton of money with somebody doing that, could you also, hold on, I have to adjust my seat here. Get that button on the bottom. Snap, let's retake that. George, if you could, when you're buying or selling a house, not only could save thousands of dollars when you're doing it, but also create residual income through just buying or selling a house with a company. Does that sound like a good deal?
Sounds like a great deal.
Yeah, right. So it's that simple. It's kind of a new concept. It's not something any real estate company's doing. And myself, as a licensed independent Texas real estate broker, am capable of doing it. So that's what I do. Today, enough advertisements. We got about 57 minutes, so we're going to get into it. I got a feeling that this guy has a lot longer conversation in him than 57 minutes, capable anyways. This is George Red Speaks. George Red is basically a comedian. You said you had a podcast before. The reason I found out about you was just like in the past 2 months, or right after quarantine started, it was just like, hey, you're doing an open mic. Hey, this guy's doing 2 open mics. And it's just like, as somebody who's been kind of following open mic comedy in the Dallas scene for about 5 or 6 years, you notice those things, right?
Yeah.
Came to the open mic, met you, saw what you're doing, and enjoyed it. Had a good mic. I thought it was every mic I've been to that you or have been associated with has been, comics are showing up. There's a little bit of an audience at all of them, which is something that, if you're an open mic comedian, that's what you want. But didn't really know you'd been around. And then one day I was on Facebook, obviously, and I saw somebody share the old the improv thing.
Yeah.
It kind of, you had done a joke about just getting out of jail on stage, and kind of had played with that. So it was obvious that, okay, well, that seemed like one of those open mic jokes where it's like, this ain't a joke. This dude's trying to riff on real stuff. So I kind of put 2 and 2 together there and went back and watched that video. And, let me pick your brain on that for a second. Just talk me through that night. Like, when you went to that night, did you have a warrant out for your rest of the time? Did you know of any open active ones?
Yeah, actually, I was on the run for about maybe a year and a half.
Okay.
At that time.
All right.
Actually, I don't even think it was a year and a half. I think it was like 9 months.
So you're in between the warrant roundup situation time frame in Texas?
Man, I went through 2 roundups,
really?
And I got away,
Nice. Because in Texas, man, they don't. It's like March or whatever month it is where they do that every year.
Yeah.
Because that's when I went back and watched that video. The way you just immediately were like, okay, hands behind my back.
So the video you're talking about is
it's on Blaxican YouTube.
It's on Blaxican Films with Flo Hernandez and Junebug.
Yeah.
And basically, I was doing my first improv show.
Oh, that was your first show at the improv?
At the improv, yeah, as a show. So, like, for me, that was a big deal. I was just like, okay, yeah, I made it,
Oh, man.
I'm promoting it and shit. And then I get there, and it's time for me to go up. And in the middle of one of my jokes, an officer comes up and says, George Rojas, we have a warrant for your arrest. Put your hands behind your back, while I'm on stage in front of the audience, and handcuffs me. And then when I go out into the hallway, the handcuffs fall, and all I hear is laughing. And I turn around, and there's Junebug with a camera and a light in my face, and everyone's laughing. And the cop that arrested me didn't even look like a cop. You know what I'm saying?
No, he didn't.
He just had a shirt that said police on it. And I was tripping. I was tripping so much, man, because it was kind of like only some comics knew that. Well, they apparently knew that because we're real good friends, us three, that I was on the run. So there was like this kind of like ongoing joke, like, George, you're doing comedy now, and then you're putting flyers everywhere. Facebook tells you exactly where you're going to be at what time, and you still haven't got arrested. And then that's what happened. And the crazy thing was the Dallas Observer picked it up. And a guy named Danny Gallagher did a piece on that whole thing. And it was crazy because the article didn't come out because exactly 7 days later, I actually got arrested.
Really? It was that fast?
Yeah, exactly 7 days. That was on a Monday, and the following Monday, I was in jail waiting to be sentenced to go to prison.
Jesus.
And then when I got to prison, and it was like in August, I received a packet in the mail from a friend of mine named Victoria, and she sent me the article. And I was just like,
so you had a little Tiger King action going on there, right? Just,
yeah.
You know, you didn't know something had happened out of that at all, and then bam.
yeah. So it was crazy, man. So that's why I was gone for a couple years, and I was out of the scene.
Right.
And then I got out. I got out March 25th, like during quarantine. Like I got out of lockup, and the whole world's on lockdown and shit. You know
well, that was kind of what you were riffing on at the open mic, and I thought that's a good take. And I'll be interested to see where you kind of polish that out to, because, like, I mean, that's a weird take, completely, and it definitely a unique one. Just so real quick for my listeners and your listeners, you're not a pedophile or anything. Let's talk about while you're on the run. Just real quick, get it out there if you don't mind. Because what you said, the open mic true, was like it's DWI basically.
It was DWI, yeah. No, it was DWI, and I had an opportunity to do probation, 10 years probation, or do time. And the thing was, I felt like I got into comedy because I went on the run, and I was just like, I have nothing else to lose, and why don't I go after the one thing I've always wanted to go after?
Right, yeah. I hear you there.
And I didn't know I was going to get traction, and I didn't even think I was going to be that good at it, you know. And then I started getting shows, and I guess I kind of just took to it. So anyway, it was the DWI thing, man.
Yeah, well, just the compiling thing of DWIs and then not taking care of DWI.
Yeah, so
I mean, just full disclosure.
Yeah, so
I got one 15 years ago.
Yeah, so they said, okay, you can get 10 years probation, but you can't leave the county.
Yeah, which is crazy for what you're trying to do.
Exactly. So in comedy, that's like that's career death. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
Like, I can't leave Tarrant County. What if I have a show in Dallas?
Yeah, or you have to call your probation or parole officer or whatever every time you want to do something.
Yeah, and so I couldn't do that, and I was like, well, what's my other option? They're like, well, you can do time. You can sit it out.
Yeah, well, that's sometimes a better option, right? I guess.
Yeah, so that's what I did. You know, I chose that because my whole goal was it was all comedy, and the whole time I was in there, I was writing the whole time. Right.
And you did what? You said about 2 years?
Yeah, it was 2 years. I haven't performed in there. I had organized some events and got real cool with one of the heads of education there. Yeah. And then they would let me perform. So.
Hell yeah. Well, that's a good way to turn it positive, man. I mean, because that's not an easy thing. I mean, I don't know. DWIs being what they are, I had one myself, and I think that if I was honest, we might twist that. But I had one myself. You know, it made me. I was kind of lucky for it at the time. I think we kind of similarly had this conversation before this in a way, but it helped kind of focus me back on what was important at the time. You know, and not kind of going down a downward spiral like you talked about before. You're you knew you were going to be going to jail, and it just kind of it leads to this path of behavior where it just eats it on itself, right? And you're just like constantly fucking up, and then blah blah. And then sitting something out and just being done with it, because I did probation for 4 years or basically 4 years combined, and talking about anxiety and bills, and this recently. And another thing is, I just got charged with resisting arrest and possession of marijuana back in February of last year. Mm-hmm. And luckily that case just got dismissed. I was going for time served or to actually sit out because I didn't want to go on probation again, because I'm almost 40 years old. I don't need to go pay the state $100 a week to go to counseling. Like, I can talk to the counselor and we can talk this out in an hour.
And probation, they really set you up for failure.
100%, and that's what I learned the first time around. So I didn't want to go to that headache. And luckily thank God for video, because the lawyer was able to use my video and talk to the DA and show the video and show, hey, listen, this was an unfortunate situation. You know, I ended up getting tased and the whole night. I mean, it was I was leaving an open mic actually, and this cop in Little Elm, and yeah, I mean, he pulled me over, said he smelled weed, which I wasn't going to deny or whatever. I was trying to do the whole, like, sovereign citizen bullshit where you're like, you can't search me. And it was horse shit. Like, I should have just, in hindsight, I should have just been like, yeah, here it is. I got nothing, because I didn't have, like, a whole bunch or anything. And one thing led to another, and the dude ends up tasing me. And it's just like, this is insane. This is ridiculous, but that's what everybody deals with on a daily basis. A lot of people do, and I think that this whole thing is happening now. We're seeing people get tired of that. So, but anyways, congratulations on getting through it and getting 2 years under your belt and moving on. Are you off of completely, or do you have a parole situation?
I have parole for like 2 more years, but it's very light. Like I'm low risk.
Right.
And I think after these past 3 months, I've kept my nose clean, literally. I've just been on the straight and narrow, I don't drink and drive anymore, and I rarely,
get too crazy.
I'm just focused on comedy, man. I'm focused on doing this whole comedy stuff, and it's 100%. So
yeah,
and it's crazy. You really have to treat it like a job, and you got to respect it. If you want it to respect you, you got to respect it. You know? Yeah, and just be organized,
Yeah, I mean, when I came in, I came into the comedy scene 5 years ago or so, kind of a happenstance thing, and. Yeah, up front, my whole deal was I didn't respect anything because that's, I just didn't understand what it was. I got involved kind of in a roundabout way, same thing, kind of spiraling downward in my life. I mean, I had a successful real estate business, but the mother of my child and me were splitting up, so it was tumultuous times and and then ultimately ended up getting with somebody else, and we had twins, and then that went south. So I was using comedy as a coping mechanism and definitely being toxic in the behaviors that I displayed as far as to, like, people who – ultimately, in this city and this scene matter. There's people that no matter where you're at have been doing something for 10, 20, 30 years sometimes, and you have to be aware of that. So obviously before you went in, that was something that you were being able and doing well at. I mean, not that it's you were able to get into improv. I know Junebug and Flo have been around for
a long time.
Yeah. They're a decade in at least, right? I would think.
Well, Flo's been in 14 years. Okay, and I'm pretty sure Junebug's somewhere around the same.
Right behind them, yeah.
Yeah. So, well, see, I've known Flo for a long time, and I used to have this TV show called Infamous Rhythm. Is when I met him, and I went to a comedy show, and this dude gets up there and just murders, right? And I was clutching my stomach. I couldn't breathe, and his name was Flo Hernandez. And so I had asked the producer and the showrunner, I was just like, listen, y'all got to introduce me to this guy, right? Yeah. And at the time, I had 1 foot in the MTV Tres, and I had my own TV show, so I still had that business card, and I remember I was trying to impress him. So I give him the MTV card. I was just like, I'm not going to tell him about my own TV show.
Yeah, right.
And he called me the next day, man, and we chopped it up for maybe like 2 hours, man, on the phone. And
nice.
And I felt connected with him automatically. Later, as our relationship progressed and we did things together, I would go to all his shows and support him. Mm-hmm. And he had said, he goes, hey, man, I see you doing all these promotions and you're doing these hip-hop shows. He goes, why don't you do a comedy show?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Why don't you produce a comedy show? And I was just
similar thing.
I was like, my family are all thugs, they ain't doing no comedy show, dog, you know what I'm saying? They trying to party,
Yeah, right.
And the way it used to work is that, it's a very cutthroat business, the hip-hop game. And then so I'll be doing these shows, 200-300 people. And then, after you pay everyone out, or whatever, you don't leave till 4 or 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
Right? And then, so an opportunity presented itself for me to produce a comedy show and have Flo Hernandez headline. And I wasn't doing comedy at this time.
Right.
And then Flo, he gets up there and he murders. And then it was surprising to me because the show started at 8 p.m., right? And we sold out. It was packed.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is amazing, right?
Right.
And it's the same type of money.
You're home by midnight.
Yeah, but you're home by midnight. You know what I'm saying? And I was just like, well, I'm in love with this. you know. And I started straying away from all the late
Hip-hop
night
thing.
gigs and the club promotions and all that stuff. And I was just like, man, I love this. I love doing this comedy thing. But it slowly progressed. It wasn't something I was focused on
Right.
because I had other business
Yeah.
and other things I was doing. And then as time progressed, I have I don't know, I'm pretty sure everyone's heard of a G Spook from K104, and then he went to 97.9 The Beat.
Okay.
He's been on radio for over 10 years, and he's my best friend. He's like a brother to me, right? Well, he's
Right,
a brother, you know. And one day, you know, he says that he wants to be a comedian, right?
All right.
And you know, Flo, I think Flo was there. Flo started busting his balls and was just
Yeah,
like, "Man, you
immediately.
can't be no comedian, bro." You know what I'm saying? And,
I'm gonna be a radio host.
well, he ends up agreeing to do a show or whatever, and we start getting closer to the show. And I believe the first show was at Patio Grill with Midnight and Flo Hernandez, and then the show after that was supposed to be at Hyenas at Mockingbird Station, right? He had never done an open mic, nothing.
Who? Flo?
No, G Spook.
Yeah.
So it's coming to like 4 days to the show, and he hits me up. He's like, "Yo, Street." That's what he's coming. He's like, "Yo, Street." He was like,
I can't do this.
"I'm gonna have to back out of this because I can't write nothing." You know? And I was like, "Fuck you! You're gonna back out of this. You're gonna make me look bad." You know?
Yeah, you're gonna go up there and look
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah. I was just like, "Where you at, man?" He was, "I'm at the radio station." I said, "All right, nigga, I'm on my way, right?"
Yeah.
So I had a K104. I still had my fob key, get in there and everything, and I sit down and I like buy like 240s and shit, you know.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to drink in there, but it was like fuck it.
Yeah.
And we crack open these 40s, and he's going back and forth talking about boogers or some shit, and I'm just like, that ain't gonna work, bro. You know what I'm saying? So anyway,
He's overthinking it. Is what
yeah.
he's
So
doing,
like
probably.
about 3 hours, I was asking him questions, and we were just shooting the shit, and I was writing whatever we were laughing at.
Yeah.
And then I wrote a 5-minute skit a 5-minute set.
Right.
And then we practiced it. And then he gets on stage that one night and just murders it, dude.
Sweet.
That's
amazing.
Never
really.
done a mic, never done anything, and
Yeah.
murders. And then we do Hyenas, and he murders again. And then another show, and I'm just like, well, fuck it, man. I'm gonna start booking you.
Yeah.
Right? When he calls me to the house, he's like, I go to the house, and he goes, "Hey, Street." He was like, "I don't want to do this shit." He goes, "I fucking hate it." And I was like, "Dude, you're good, dude. You look good on stage, bro. You have a big name in the city. You can really capitalize on
Yeah.
this."
Take this further, right?
He's like, I don't like it. I don't want to do it. And he goes, "I belong in the radio. I belong. That's what I'm good at. That's what I love, you know."
Well,
He
good
goes-
for him for at least being honest on
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
And then he was
not
just
wasting too much more of your time.
Yeah, and then he goes, "Well, why don't you fucking do comedy?" He goes, "You're the one that wrote the shit. You know what I'm saying?" He goes, "You're the funny one, you know?"
Yeah.
And I was like, nah, you know.
Well, it is different. It is because like I haven't gone to open mics for as much as I have now. I mean, yeah, there's people I know that I could write for and help out and be way better than I am personally. So like that jump to the stage is definitely not like something that's just easy. It just
It's
comes
not easy, no.
like that. Yeah.
And just like you said, it's sometimes, you know, if you're a writer, you see things funny. It's easy to write for other people because
Of course.
you're on the outside looking in, and you're like, "Oh yeah, that'd be funny, that'd be funny." And then when you're writing comedy, it's so personal,
Yeah.
where you have to now, you know, look within yourself
Oh yeah.
and see what's funny there, and then
Yeah.
you're just like, "Fuck, there's nothing funny. I'm not funny. I'm not handsome. You know what I'm saying?
can't do
I'm
this.
nobody.
Yeah.
Why am I doing this?"
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. No, we all have I think if you're not a comedian if you haven't, or an artist for that matter, if you haven't had kind of that
Those times of doubt.
moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I get that every week, man. Like,
Oh,
I
for
think I
sure.
get it before every show. I'm just like, I
Yeah.
don't even know why the fuck I'm doing this, why I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm going to mess up everything, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then they call your name,
And it's just
and
go.
then you get up there, and it's a live audience, and then you do your set, and they're laughing, and afterwards you get that high. You're like,
Yeah.
I am supposed to be doing this shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the most bipolar relationship in the world.
It's
Like,
crazy, yeah.
And well, before, I mean, 'cause I've never really been an artist per se. I grew up in a football town, played football. I was supposed to play football. You either chose band or football. You know what I mean? I got
No.
thrown in football because I was this size pretty much from the time I hit puberty. So, having gone to UNT and my eyes been opening to art and actually getting out of my bubble in my hometown and being, you know, blessed to have that opportunity, number one, but then just using it to really get out to meet people. And then here recently, you know, because I wouldn't say I promoted hip hop shows, but back when I was successful with real estate, how I got into comedy too was I had some money from real estate. I had some time off because I wasn't answering my phone for real estate at the time. And I did a comedy festival and I did some small stuff here and there, and really just kind of gave some money to some people who said they could do stuff. I thought they might be able to do stuff. You know how that kind of game works in the creative area, and probably every city in Dallas, not different than any other. But what I learned real quick was how insecure artists really are. Because you have this vision in your head of like, oh man, they can go up there and do that. I can't do that. Like, so they're way. And then when you start getting to know people, like, oh shit, like this is, there's some people here that. And to me, it's been interesting for sure watching the people, especially when you get to know some of them, who really have come from real issues and are actually trying to work those things through and bring that to the stage. And then like some of these people who are seeing people have those issues and are trying to make a character out of it. And that, I don't know, that gets to in a very weird.
It's a very thin line.
It's a it's a very thin line, and it's
and that's where you find out if something works or not.
Yeah,
and because it could be a thin line, but if it isn't genuine, it's not gonna turn over.
It shouldn't.
Or
you gotta be a really good performer, like a good stage performer. And that's what I noticed in Dallas comedy. I don't know if you've seen this, but one of my many jokes are like disputes with the scene, because to me I take that even as a joke. Like, this is a group of people trying to be creative. We're lucky to even have that ability, and to have a scene as diverse as Dallas is pretty crazy, and then also is easy to enter. I mean, if you go to New York or LA or any of these big cities, it's a lot tougher to even just get time, and then to find a small community of people willing to do stuff and let you even try stage time.
I think Dallas is a very good place to get started.
Oh no, 100%. And when I first started off, what I've noticed though is that we have an improv situation. Like DCH does improv, and they're very big. If it wasn't for DCH, there probably wouldn't be near as much interested in comedy in Dallas. So, they've done a lot in the same way like Hyenas has in a different field. And just watching how the improv, having seen some of these kids who grew up in theater, being able to go up there and really understand the rhythm and understand how to do it, how to deliver jokes. That to me was just kind of interesting too, watching how it really is. It's that like kind of what you explained with your buddy, of taking somebody who has the confidence to do one thing and just showing them, hey, here's how we, turn it around and how you do this. And it is kind of formulaic when you get up there to the end of the day. You have to be funny and you have to be engaging. And obviously someone like you, as I've seen you perform, you have the comics energy, to where you can take control of a room, for better or for worse, is like the way I look at it.
And I think I got that out of hip hop, like for instance, I was having a conversation with a group of comedians and they were just like, man, George, it's like you just got out and it seems like you've been doing comedy for so long.
Yeah.
And then before then, I really haven't, I really haven't. And I was just like, well, it isn't. Because it takes a long time to be able to get on stage and have a presence and kind of know yourself and what your image is, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So I think a lot of that figuring out happened in hip hop in so many different ways, right?
Yeah,
because I was learning how to shop myself. I was learning how to be on stage, when I would lose an audience, how do I bring them back, or how do you light the room,
right?
To keep
Small
the attention,
too.
Where should the audio be bouncing off of, and and then you learn all this stuff. I learned that in 15 years, and then I got into comedy.
Right.
And then I was able to just I wasn't all the other stuff that probably
wasn't wasted time.
Yeah, it wasn't wasted time.
Yeah.
Another good thing is kind of like how you said you were talking about earlier, like when you first got in it, you didn't really respect it and stuff like that. That's the way I was with hip hop too. I had this ego thing, right?
Yeah, and that's specifically what it boils down to. A lot of times,
So like when I got into hip hop, I burned a lot of bridges, dude. Being the tough guy and then trying to
That's before social media was as
it's prominent, and I burned a lot of bridges, man. I had a bad attitude, and I still have a lot of those bridges too. I mean, I still have a lot of good relationships, but as being young and coming into it, there's certain people that would never work with me again, and that was just me just being a young, dumb, stupid motherfucker, right?
Yeah, saying something stupid or
so coming into comedy, I was just like, I'm not doing this with this.
Yeah, I'm not changing. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I hear you. And that's a good lesson to learn, because like when I came in too, I just got done with that, or just doing that festival, and then one of these guys, I'm not gonna mention his name, but he's one of these DCH guys, and I had long story short, I ended up dating one of the comedians that came on the festival, and she had been a touring comedian. She was really good. She was, not really anyone knew, but 10 years in, had done a bunch of stuff. Definitely an opinion worth respecting, regardless of if we were dating or whatever. She was a solid comedian. She made the comment about this dude in particular about how's he teaching classes? He's never even done a show, and that's So she gave me that attitude on it, and literally it wasn't a week after that. This dude pulls me outside DCH one night and was like, "How are you even putting on a festival? You don't know anything about comedy." And I was just sitting there. I'm thinking to myself, number one, I don't know you really. Like, we just have profiles on Facebook, and that's the only way I know you. Number one. Number two, I've organized events in my life.
Yeah.
I have a business I've operated that was successful. I have a lot of different things that I know how to do. Like, what is this new thing of people being to say, "Oh, well, you did that. You can't do this. This is hard." It's like, no, this is calling people, getting a venue lined up, finding someone who's actually talented. This isn't rocket science. We're not Tesla.
Yeah.
We're not reinventing the wheel here.
And you can.
Yeah.
The thing is, if you can do it, then fucking do it.
Yeah,
Fuck what
and
everyone
try.
else says, man.
Yeah.
Because you're always going to have people that, because they can't do it, or because they didn't do it as fast as you did it.
Right, or a different way, or whatever.
Yeah. You don't have to agree with it. Don't show up.
Yeah.
No,
that's my whole thing, and
yeah.
so I think that's why I took one of the reasons I took a combative approach on the forefront. But as I've been doing it 5 years, I've realized, number one, it's given me time to realize who's who. Yeah. Realize who's actually really someone who's in town, who's doing big stuff, who doesn't, who's just playing games, who's been around forever but doesn't take it seriously, or whatever. All those kind of things. It's allowed me to do that, and then ultimately, the coolest thing is when I got started again. I keep doing that. I hate these stupid things on the bottom. Inattentional comedy, folks. Back then there wasn't a lot of lanes for open mics, and that's what I saw as a problem and that's kind of where unfortunately I got into it with Hyenas at one point. It's just because they were squashing people's mics and saying you can't do this and you can't do that, and I'm just sitting here like, hey guys, I don't know any of these guys, but we're just trying to get creative comedians here, and if a comedian, and that was the thing that made me so weird, is from a business standpoint, I was like, if these guys are the main thing in town and they want to put talented comedians through, don't you want your comedians practicing 5 nights a week and possibly going out and doing shows? So that's what another thing is. I went in and made some jokes and got in trouble there. To me though, it was like, hey, what's going to happen? But ultimately now we did. Before quarantine, there was mics every night. 2 or 3 mics a night specifically for comedy. Yeah. A lot of different lanes were opening up, and right after quarantine, obviously, with you starting mics and being one of the first one to kind of say fuck it and do mics, because there was literally people just like, no, there's this policing going on of people shouldn't do shows.
It's like a self-policing thing, and to me it's disgusting.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, look, man, you're a stand-up comedian and you're getting mad. You're trying to be PC, politically correct. That's what's killing comedy. And you're a comedian. And then listen. If you have an opinion, great.
That's awesome.
You don't want to come out?
Don't.
Fine. Don't trash the people that want to work.
Yeah. Don't.
Now listen. For some people, this is their goal. This is their dream, right? This is what they want to do. And if they're gonna take a risk of getting coronavirus and get out there, take the proper precautions. Wash your fucking hands. Wear a mask.
Yeah.
Clean the mic. Have some wipies on you. That's your responsibility. Yeah. But it's also it's up to you if you want to show up or not. You don't have to show up, and you don't have to trash these people. You know what I'm saying?
And,
for instance, look, we went back into quarantine. My mics are still open because I put them in restaurants. Yeah. Right. So Hatchet's has always been there. Right. So it's up and going. It's not going nowhere unless they close restaurants. Right. The one at Tavern on the Square in Garland is still up and going. Yeah. It'll be there every Thursday with 89-cent wings come out. So
no, I've been to that one. It's a great little spot, man. Downtown Garland, old historic Garland. Perfect.
Yeah. But we have to be able to practice our craft. Yeah. And look, I was in prison and I was practicing my craft. I'd be in my cell and I'd have guys come in and be like, check it out, I got this new bit I need to work on. You know what I'm saying? And I'll work on it. And so for some people, some people work and some people don't. Yeah. Right? And the ones that don't work, the ones that are sleeping, I don't even like to call it like it's a dream to go after, because dreams are for sleepers. You know what I'm saying? But for some of us, we got vision, Yeah. And we got vision. We see something that we want to hit. And the only way to do that is by taking a step every single day a little bit closer to that vision.
And not giving up.
And not giving up.
And, because I got into a kerfuffle, I didn't mean to, about hat tricks specifically. Because I don't really know Jason. I'm familiar with the mic. When Jamie started it, that was kind of one of the first mics that I went to. Probably one of the first mics I went up at.
Shout out to Jamie Gravy.
Yeah, Jamie Gravy. Yeah, I'm gonna get him on here eventually. Probably. He's hilarious. But as an independent business person myself, obviously with real estate and being a server, which is ultimately kind of an independent business every night, I have sympathy for people in business. So when I see Jason constantly posting online about trying to keep his business alive, and now these restrictions are lifted, I simply reached out to him and said, hey, dude, I'm not the best host in the world, blah, blah, blah. This isn't ideal to a situation. I told him that, hey, if you let me host it, people are going to get upset because that did happen. Approached the old host and messaged him, was like, hey, dude, I'm thinking about just asking, he never responded. And then bam, within 30 minutes of me messaging Jason, there's this thing online, talking to me about, I'm trying to snake this mic and we all need to be safe and this is blah, blah, blah. And Miles Francis, you seem like a nice kid, man. And that's great. But my goal with that whole situation was I knew personally there's comedians that, like you said, are doing this for a lot more reasons than just there's their dream or something.
Yeah.
That is a reason, but it's a vision and it's also a drive. And that there's people that wanted to go to a mic and wanted to get out and try it, and we're not being allowed that because of fear of ultimately somehow it affecting their career, which to me was just mind-boggling. You're talking about open micers for the most part.
Yeah.
We're talking about people who just going to a bar. Not only that, but patronizing a bar and hat tricks has been very
supportive
to comedy. To giving a mic every Monday for now 3 or 4 years. It was just mind-blowing to me. So I was happy to see you pop in the next week and just be like, oh, we're going to do this.
Yeah, there's this saying that it says, if you want honey, don't kick the beehive over. Don't kick the beehive over, bro. And don't start the drama. Don't start the friction. You're going to get people agitated and pissed off, and people aren't going to want to work with. I'm not saying you, but to any individual that attacks. Especially if there's a venue. Okay, if there's a venue that's being supportive of you and what you're trying to do, then that's your customer.
Yeah, 100%.
You're
in business for them.
You might be a host, you might be a comedian, you might be a performer, whatever, right?
Yeah.
But ultimately, before the audience is your customer, the venue is your customer.
Yeah.
You have to take care of the venue, because without that venue, you're doing Zoom shows.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So and there's nothing wrong with that. I've done those. I'm just saying
it ain't the real thing.
It's not the real thing. So for instance, and also if you want to work with the other bees, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You got to be
cordial.
Part of that industry.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because that's what a beehive is. It's an industry of everyone working together, surviving together. And
to make honey comedy.
Yeah.
Well, no, in my mind, that's what I was attempting to do by talking to Jason and reaching out to Miles personally and saying, "Hey, number one, when you're ready to come back."
I've never met him.
I don't think you've ever met Miles.
No.
Yeah,
I have nothing against him.
You have nothing against him. Yeah, I don't either. Really.
Well, they called me up. They called me up about the mic, right? And apparently, from what I've heard, they gave the people that were running it before the opportunity to come back.
Yeah.
And they made a decision that they were like, I don't want to.
Right, 100%.
But business has to keep going. Jason has to
keep the doors open.
I mean, dude, how do you pay the bills? You know what I'm saying? It's a business.
It's a business, yeah.
Everyone's trying to survive right now.
Well, and Jason and people like him aren't getting handouts from the government. They're not getting large checks.
Yeah, they're not getting any help. So
Jason's literally as independent as it can be when it comes to. I mean, if there's anything I hope the general public takes away from this whole baloney, is the service industry, man. And the way that the service industry works, whether it be a restaurant, fast food, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Those people are really essential, and the ones who aren't corporate are amazing, man. They keep us having something different, man. And the ability to sponsor a mic or do something like that. So yeah.
And I don't understand how the government, right, or how Abbott is going after bars. So everything else can be open, but bars can't be open. What the fuck is wrong with you, man? So why you picking on them?
Yeah. Well, Not to get too conspiratorial, but I believe there's evidence of the Baptist religion kind of having a stronghold
in Texas
politics.
Texas, Oklahoma.
A lot of the South.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's not a conspiracy as much as
we still have counties that are dry.
Oh, yeah. No, when I moved back to
it's
Forney.
2020, and there are counties where you have to drive an hour away to get beer.
Beer, yeah. Not even liquor.
It's
beer.
Insane, dude.
Oh, yeah. When I moved back to Forney in 2007, when I was having my first kid, it was still a dry area. So, I've been doing real estate there for 2 years. Part of real estate is obviously having a lot of free time. So I thought, I'll try to get this thing turned. And I ended up collecting a bunch of signatures and doing all that. Bottom line is I verified 3 less signatures than I needed to get it on the ballot that year. Thankfully, Walmart came behind me the next year, and they wanted it done in Forney all of a sudden. So, bam, it was done and through. Now they're selling beer and wine and all that out there now. Damn. But, that's how it works here. And that's the thing with this one. It's been, cause this whole thing's been weird. But when he says no bars, but you're still allowing churches, it's like, this is a strange one, man, because as much as I believe religion's a good thing, I don't think it's necessarily this horrible thing that we should be afraid of. The majority of even Southern Baptists or Pentecostals or Catholics or Buddhists or Muslims or what.
Bars are a good thing too.
They're good people. Just like the majority of people that go to that bar or that restaurant are just looking for a community of people to hang out with.
Like, for instance, comedy clubs, they're considered a bar because they serve more alcohol than food.
Right.
But they're not a bar.
But they're not at all.
You can't go to a comedy club and just hang out.
Yeah, mill around.
Yeah. No, you're there for a show. You're waiting for it. You can hang in the bar area, right? And then you got to go into the show. And after the show, you got to get the fuck out because we got another show that we got to do with a whole bunch of new people coming in.
Yeah, so
it's more of a theater.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It should be treated as such, yeah.
It should be, look, listen, you're going to shut down bars? Okay, let's clarify.
Well, so that's where I'm confused because, I noticed that Improv did a show this weekend in Houston. Obviously it was Joe Rogan, so there might have been some special permits involved or some baloney, which permit being payoff in this point.
It was this weekend?
Yeah, last Friday. Friday after, because everything was supposed to shut down at noon on Friday. And maybe they just said, F it, we got 4 sold out nights. We're going to make because
fine us.
Well, the funniest thing is, where I work, because I work at a restaurant that's been going through this whole thing. And I would say it's a mid-level size company that borders on small company. And I've watched them have to deal with this, and I'm not envious of anybody involved in having to deal with it. But, last week, the reality of a lot of this is it's up until now, or where we're getting now, it's just been suggestions that these businesses take these precautions. There really hasn't been any actual there's no legal ramifications that can come of it just because of the way things, work. You can't just start suing people for no reason unless there's a precedent for it, right? So yeah, we're in a weird space. I noticed Improv, and today when I was coming here, Improv posted some shows for the middle of July. So it's going to be weird where it takes us, because I agree, comedy is something, that needs to be considered as essential.
It is, man. Look, it was so crazy when me and Flo did Hyena's the Straight Out of Quarantine show, right? And we didn't know what to expect, dude. Yeah. Fucking packed.
100%.
Sold out. Both shows.
Yeah.
Sold out. When I did Straight Out,
better quality people too, probably.
Hat-Tricks isn't really the place where you do comedy shows at, right?
It's a tough venue to do it. That's the beauty of it.
It's a very tough venue to actually do a show there and then get people.
My thing with Hat-Tricks is getting everybody to shut up. If I can do that, I've done.
So when we did Straight Out of Quarantine there, we sold out Hat-Tricks.
Yeah.
That's how essential comedy is to people. I had people coming from Fort Worth driving all the way to Louisville.
Yeah, just to get out and see a show.
Yeah, renting out hotels and stuff just to come see a basic showcase. Oh yeah, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So comedy is essential. Yeah, we got to bring it back.
We got to, and I think what we got to get to too, and with this whole news spike, and who knows where we're kind of headed right now.
Everyone has to get it.
To go away.
Everybody has to get it. This is how we're going to get through it.
Yeah, it's like a chicken pox party back in the day, right?
Everyone, it's never going to go away.
No, it's not. Yeah.
It's here. It's a certain type of cough. It's a certain type of virus. It's going to exist forever. You cannot eradicate this.
Yeah, it's like the drug war.
It's never going to stop. The only way to get through this is to get it.
Yeah.
Get out there, shake some hands, French kiss some people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I can't say that DDFW Realty confirms or would say that's a good idea at all, but comedically that's hilarious.
Yeah.
And, I don't disagree. Well, yeah.
Small disclaimer.
I made a joke trying to work a bit on.
I truly believe that. So,
Yeah, no, I don't, and I don't dis.
You know,
I
without condoms, you know, unprotected sex.
Shout out to my 3 kids. Yeah, no, I'm with you. Like, I don't necessarily. I don't think we should be. We should never be recklessly abandoning caution. And I think that probably both me and you have been, and not just me and you, but tons of people, especially this day and age, live their lives in that way, whether it be with drugs and alcohol, or bad decisions in dating, or life choices. So that's a part of the American thing that, like, right now, this whole, like, people just yelling you need to stay at home and you're a bad person and all this stuff. Those people.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, to those people, I'm trying to get it.
Yeah.
I'm actively trying to get it. When I get it, I will quarantine myself from everybody.
Yeah.
But I'm trying. Look, I'm trying.
I want to know. Yeah, I want to know. Can I beat this thing? The ultimate
I'm a
video
risk
game.
taker. You know.
Yeah, can you beat? Well, I mean, it's funny. It's not conspiracy, but yeah, back in the day when kid had chicken pox, they would send all the kids over there to get it, so they would get it and they would work their way through a system and like. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I worked a bit on stage a little bit, and it is how I feel about it in reality, is that, like, you know, I'm drinking water now and trying to be a little more healthy, blah, 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 because, like, I don't want to die, and my kids be like, why'd your dad die? COVID. Like, you taken out by flu. Like, I don't know. I don't want that.
And just last week, he was on this show talking shit. I'm gonna feel bad. I won't be invited to the funeral.
Yeah, you wouldn't be there anyways, but you're not gonna feel bad. You might. I don't know. If it was next week, probably not. But I wouldn't feel bad because that's the way life works. I mean, I don't know. I look at that this way. We get in our car every day.
Yeah.
And before the corona, you know, fatal accidents are huge causes of problems. So there's so many risks we take. It's been very conspiratorial and interesting. And that's kind of the reason I changed the name of the podcast. I feel like it's just conspiracy-filled time right now where there's so many theories and blah, 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 and the truth, and who knows.
I'm living in a fucking cartoon right now, man. What the hell is going on? This president, dude, did you see that tweet that he put up? They made him take it down.
The Lone Warrior one? Is that what you're talking about?
Dude, he posted a video, and he says, thanks to the villagers.
Yeah.
And the dude's like, white power! And I was just like, do you see what this guy's putting on Twitter, dude? This guy is insane. He's a president of the United States, bro.
No, it's hilarious. I mean, I've done a bit on stage, too. As a fan of Andy Kaufman-esque comedy.
You know what? He knows exactly what he's doing because he knows who his voters are.
Yeah, and I don't
You know what I'm
disagree.
saying?
I don't, yeah.
So
it's hard to disagree with that.
He knows exactly.
He's not as dumb as, like, everybody wants
He's
to.
not dumb.
To say
he plays dumb when he's like, oh, I didn't know that they said that on the fucking video I put on my own Twitter. Man. Get the fuck out of here, dude. You're smarter than that.
He's not, though. Well, he is and he's not. There's two lanes here. I think he either is doing it 100% intentionally.
He's a racist, smart motherfucking prick is what he is.
I can't call him a racist. He's a classist,
Oh,
elitist.
my God.
Well, just because, okay.
Oh, my God.
Okay, he has all this. It's like, I don't forget there's a bit about this, but he has all the familiarities of a racist right now, especially because of the dumb stuff he's tweeting.
He's a fucking racist.
But if you look, systematically speaking, yes, 100%.
His
Where
rhetoric
he comes
is
from,
racist.
but okay, when he was becoming who he is now, in the 20 years from the 80s to now, 30 years.
But have you seen before he was even president?
Yeah.
How many times that they went after this guy for being racist to his own?
Not just even
like
racist,
like his
a
own
bad
residents?
business person. Yeah. I'm not gonna.
his residents.
Yeah,
Pay rent
pay
there.
rent
He's
there.
kicking them out because they're black and
On
Jews.
the night he got
Puerto Ricans.
elected, I was in New Mexico talking to a dude who voted for him, who had worked for him in Florida, and said that even though he tried to rip him off and did ultimately rip him off for $200,000, he'd work for him again. I don't think the guy's a good guy.
That's because he's crazy. That's a bad business move. That's just bad opinion.
But you think that? But think about it this way: this
That's just like,
guy was a
This guy raped me in prison, but
Well, no,
he's a nice guy.
Well, no, but it's not that extreme.
It's pretty extreme.
This guy,
I'd rather have a guy rape me than take $100,000 from me. Or what'd you say, $200,000?
That's a tough one. I would go for 2, but 100 would probably be
I
where
take
I
a
would
fat
take
dick,
it
bro.
take for
You
100.
ain't taking 200
Right now with the family and stuff to pay bills on, yeah, probably 100. It depends on if it's videoed and can be distributed at the end of the day. Like, what are we doing with this video? But
he's a nice guy.
No, I'm not saying he's a nice guy or he's a good person or that he's even someone that I think should be the president of our country. I'm with you in the cartoon reality that this is the guy we got. And,
it's fucking surreal.
It is surreal. And looking at it in the way that, like, the stuff he tweets, okay, he comes from a definite racist history. Not only that, just a family, but the way that real estate works in general. You can't have worked in real estate in this country and not taking advantage of certain situations. But where it gets interesting is he's just a narcissistic, like, elitist. Like, he's just so full of his own shit. It's just on repeat.
And you know what? You know what? It's okay. You want to be racist, fine, right? But be smart about it.
Well, that's another thing I would say is that all real racists I've ever met.
Because this is what he's doing. When you have a leader, right? You know
Paul knows what I'm saying. Yeah, especially in the South. I don't say shit.
When you have a leader, right? People follow, right? So
for
instance,
I agree.
He's making it okay to be openly racist.
Which I'll follow you there.
You know,
I agree.
Let these racists, let them go back in a hole where they came from,
Hear me out, though.
and let them die out with their families.
I don't disagree, but number one, they're not going to do that because they're mating and they are reproducing, sadly, in places all over the country. Right. But secondly,
so are we.
And I agree, and probably at a faster rate. But what I was, at a much faster rate. Let's be honest. But
we're coming for your daughters, America.
Watch out! You're gonna get them back. You're gonna start showing the reefer madness again, saying that's paranoia. No, but you got me off track. But he's this thing that he's brought out this thing in America. Yes, that where people feel confident in being an idiot. It's kind of like social media has done, and what I've attempted to do with my account online and joking and just kind of being who I am and trying to make that online too, which is weird. Yeah. It's like, don't take this too seriously, man. Like, just because, you don't know what's what. And, where the benefit, I think, of someone like him bringing these people out of the woodwork, not only for the great videos online we get to see, if this kind of confidence wasn't being stoked, I don't know that we would be getting the change that we might be getting. I don't know that you would have had someone like that officer who did that thing to Mr. Floyd. I don't think you would have had somebody in a position to do that. Now, that sounds like, I'm saying we need that to happen. I don't think we necessarily need that to happen, but it is happening. And we have to look for that silver lining. And the silver lining to me is that, it's exposing a lot of these assholes. Because
change has to come because no one's going to shut up anymore.
Well, and the joke, you laugh, but like, real racism, and growing up in East Texas, and my family never discussed race, and that's a big kind of part of the problem is that families don't discuss these things, especially the ones that aren't affected by it, and that extends beyond race into all kinds of class and different situations. But coming into this, I kind of lost my train of thought there again too. I hate when you start rambling on stuff, but you have to be honest about that. The real racists, the people I knew growing up, and I could tell you stories about, and that things that happened that were horrible that didn't just happen in my small town, but happened in almost every small town across this country in form or fashion. Those racists were quiet, and they ran our institutions, and they ran our government, and they put us in a situation to where. Yeah, we have cops like that, and ultimately like large whole police forces who have been compromised, for lack of a better term, by white power elements. Because that's a federal. I mean, the FBI has released information on that. That's a real thing. Yeah, and it's something we should definitely be looking at.
That's how they started.
Yeah, I know, and that's how. Well, you go back to the history of Texas Rangers. You go back to the
Texas
history.
Rangers, same thing. They murdered everyone. Their objective was to eradicate.
Yeah, the indigenous population at that time.
Eradicate them from Texas.
Yeah,
murder them.
And that's what they did, And
that's exactly what they did.
Because we had the restaurant I work in, we had a black young lady start this week with us, and it was a small restaurant, and she's the only black chick working, or the only one we had working there. And I work in like the heart of what I would say is entitlement. as far as the location of where I'm at.
Yeah.
And of course, the conversation got on race.
That's the white privilege zip code.
Pretty much, at least top 3, I would say. It depends on if we're going state or nation, but definitely in the top 10. And you know what was interesting? Her and this bar customer had a conversation. Everything was on, and then me and her, we all joking. The staff were all joking, and I made a comment. She said about Texas being racist, and we kind of were making jokes. And everything was good. I was like, well, you know what? Texas was different because during that racial time, plantation South, if you will, where Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, all of those areas were benefiting from slavery economically, and that's how they were being run. Texas was wild, boy. Like, there wasn't plantations and, like, all that kind of stuff going on. Yeah, you had the Texas Rangers here literally working on eradicating the leftover Cherokees. I mean, there was all kinds of stuff going on. It was just not different. It was way different than any of those other places. So, yeah, I don't know. To me, I like the fact that we kind of have a racist president. I guess we're going to call him that. I don't like the fact that bad things are happening, but I think that bad things have always been happening.
The good thing I like about it is that because part of the old debate was racism doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
Well, now we know it fucking does.
Really does.
So now that it's up, it's going to get bad before it gets better, but it has to get bad.
Yeah, and it's getting there right now, and hopefully we don't get any more worse. So on that positive note, catch me at 4 p.m. I'm going to be with George on his podcast here on Fishbowl Network in a minute, and then catch me every Tuesday at 1 p.m. If you're interested in being a guest, want to talk about conspiracy, please do. Check out DDFWRealty.com for all your real estate needs. I've been RJ Avery. Thank you very much for your time.
Good show.
Yeah, man. I thought it was pretty good.
Each week on Mondays at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time from FBRN Studios at Global.